Okay, my loves. I know there are a lot of you that are out there that are really wondering, how do I even set boundaries anymore? Maybe you didn't grow up with great boundaries. Maybe boundaries weren't really modeled well for you, or maybe you were told that you cannot have boundaries. Maybe you're tired of being gaslighted in your relationships, and you're tired of feeling crazy all the time and guilty for trying to make a difference in your life. If this is you, then I want you to come schedule a call with me. Let's chat about the Unashamed Image Program. The Unashamed Image Program is geared towards you specifically. I am going to be helping you in our next upcoming session of the Unashamed Image. I am personally going to train you how to not feel crazy when someone is gaslighting you, how to be able to stand your ground, to keep your boundaries intact, and to also see through the bull crap. I am also going to be teaching you how to set really confident boundaries that you can really rely on. And I'm going to help you communicate them in a way that really makes sense. Basically, I'm going to help you live a life free of shame and on your terms. If you are ready and you are done feeling all the shame and guilt for trying to set boundaries, if you are not willing to live another moment the way you are right now and in somebody else's shadow, then this is the time to schedule that call with me. It's completely free, no pressure, just love, just support. Go to www.erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. Scroll down the page to where it says, Let's Chat About Working Together. Click on that button and it'll take you to my booking page. If you're ready to live the unashamed life, schedule that call. Let's get you in the Unashamed Image Program, my loves. From my heart to your heart. Bye. Welcome to the other side of the struggle. This is a podcast where we talk about trauma, how to heal it, and then how to take it and use it to unlock your mission and your potential, and to use it to live your very best dream life. When you're dealing with betrayal trauma, it can be hard to know how to heal it, how to stop the pain, and to know what your next steps are to take in your own life. And these are the questions that we try to answer here. Trauma has the ability to rob us of our joy and identity, which is why it's so miserable to experience. But with the right tools and with the right mindset, we can totally reclaim that joy and even use this trauma to strengthen ourselves, so that way trauma does not knock us off of our joy again. Living your dream life should be a non-negotiable, but trauma tends to try to negotiate that with you. And even though trauma is not something that we will completely ever be free of in our life, the pain is negotiable. This is why I created Erin Anderson Betrayal Trauma Coaching and this podcast, is because I want my listeners, I want my clients to live, truly live free from the prison that trauma can put you in. I want you to live on the other side of the struggle. Okay, I want you to stop what you're doing right now for just a minute, and I really want you to hear me out. I want you to go right now to erinanderson.kartra.com/page/heart of gold. There you are going to find a free meditation just for you from me
This meditation is amazing. Let me tell you a little bit about what it's going to give you. Okay? Number one, it's going to help boost your confidence. If you are dealing with trauma, then you are most likely dealing with a confidence issue as well. And it's something that you are really, really wanting back. Number two, it is going to help you find security in your situations in your life because it's going to help you gain a sense of self love and some self trust. The third thing this is going to give you is an ability to escape the trauma that you're experiencing right now, this very minute, and help you find peace and joy and love and a deep appreciation for you and your experiences. This is going to really help you reconnect with yourself. So, that is very, very, very important when you are dealing with healing from trauma. So, again, I'm going to tell you what that website is that you need to go to. erinanderson.kartra, KARTRA.com/page/heart of gold. Capital HEARTOF, capital GOLD. Go check out this meditation. Please claim it for yourself because it is 100% a gift from me to you to help you heal right now from trauma. All my love.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of the Struggle. Oh my gosh, you guys, I have one of my favorite people in the whole world with me today. This is my good friend and mentor, Kushla Chadwick. She has been not only very influential in my business and my podcast and helping me move forward, but she's also been a very good friend every single time that I have felt a new trauma or something new coming up. She's probably the first person to know with me particularly, but I just love having her here on the podcast for you guys because I just feel like her influence and her wisdom is just such a blessing in my life, and I know that it can bless you guys as well. So I want to thank Kushla for being here and especially for everything she's done.
Oh, hey, Erin, and thank you for having me here.
You're welcome. So Kushla, one of the things we've been talking about in the podcast this week is just like our manifesting energies that just have no limits whatsoever on them. And so we've talked about like the power of the mind and how you can literally envision anything you want, the power of your voice speaking things into fruition, and like how there's like an energy with the voice and the vibrations and things like that. I actually talked to Seidel Schultz with that one. And then last week we talked about how we can create a lot of the things that we see in our mind and we speak with our hands. But the piece that I feel like really ties everything together is our energy. And I know like for me personally, like when I was really sitting in the thick of betrayal trauma and feeling like there wasn't any hope, like this was just going to be my life, this was the way it was going to be no matter what I did, I can see like that's a mindset, but that's also an energy thing, you know, because my energy always felt so low. So I'm curious, like you're somebody that has always, like talking to you, has had just a really high energy.
Mm.
And so tell me, like, what are some of the things you do to keep your energy high, and what are some of the things that our listeners can do to also make sure that they can bring their energies up as well so they can create the things that they want in their life?
Awesome. So, number one, I'll start. I'll try and go through those bit by bit. But addressing that my energy is high. I want to say also my energy can be low. It doesn't go low very often though. And when it does go low, it doesn't stay low very often. So it's not necessarily a game of like having to be like on high or having to like have this high level of energy all the time. It's okay to feel all the things, right? I want to address that firstly. It's absolutely okay to feel sad if something sad happens. It's okay to feel angry if, someone yells at you, or if you catch your partner in the act of watching pornography. Like, all these emotions are very natural to come up. And I'm not talking about fake high energy. So I'm not, even though I have high energy, if something sucky happens, I'm fine to feel the emotion that's associated with observing that sucky thing, right? From my perspective. Right. I will say though, generally, I definitely have a few things that I do that allow me to keep my energy high, and that, your tribe, your audience can do to help their energy to be high, not just for the sake of it, again, just because it feels good. And you're going through life creating from a different place when you've got a higher level of energy. Now, I could get really geeky here and talk about the quantum field. That's probably something to do on another call, though. But I will say this.
I like the geeky. I always learn something cool from geeky, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I will say, primarily what we are experiencing is a result of our personality. And I know that we want to often blame it on circumstances, right? And the thing that's happened to you makes you tired. That, staying up late with kids can definitely be a thing that makes you tired, right? I had 9 years of sleep deprivation, when my children were little babies and growing and all that stuff. There can be work demands. There can be lots of different things. And we can feel like it's the thing outside of us that gives us energy. But firstly, I'll say I believe that energy is unlimited and available to us all the time. We don't have energy stored in us, though we can, if we're talking about it just from a chemical perspective. We have amounts of energy stored within us, but I believe energy is accessible from the quantum field at any given time. And what we can do also is understand that the amount of energy that we will have correlates directly with our personality. And our personality is made up of what we think, what we feel, and what we do. Okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and this gets shown all the time. I will observe people and observe the amount of energy that they have and how they view themselves. And you will see that if you just watch people enough, watch yourself enough, most importantly, begin to take note of the things that you say out loud and the things you say within your own mind. Begin to have a look at how you feel. And sometimes our feelings, yes, are a result of what we're thinking. Sometimes it might be something happens and we kind of have a reactive response to it. But think, feel, and do. Have a look at what those things are that you're thinking, feeling, and doing every day. And you'll see that the amount of energy, that whether it feels higher or lower or sad or depressed or anxious or relaxed or ready to go, ready to do things, it's going to correlate with your thoughts, feelings, and what you prioritize, which again is another conversation. Takes us to the next thing, which is looking at our values, right?
Yeah.
So, and being in alignment with our values. So there's so much that kind of we can go into today, but I will just ask you, not you, Erin, but our listeners, just to think about, who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? Because again, your personality now has been derived of your past thoughts, your past feelings, and your past actions.
Right.
If you want to create a new experience, if you want to have more energy, if you want to, I'm talking about physical energy, more emotional energy, more mental energy, if you've got a specific goal you want. So maybe you want to have a relationship that feels more loving and connected. Maybe you want to feel like, you've got a really good relationship with your children. and that they feel loved and safe. Maybe you've got a health goal. You're like, you know what? I want to feel beautiful. Like for me, I know there was a tremendous amount of work I did around my gallbladder after I had my appendix taken out. Like that really threw my health for a sixer for a while, right? And so when you're talking about creating something, yeah, you definitely want to do a few things. And I've actually got the steps here if you want me to go into them, or if you want to talk some more about what I've just talked about, we can do that.
Well, yeah, like I would love to hear these steps, and I feel like that's something that my listeners would be very interested in. I can almost hear them like, yes, please show me, right? And because the thing is you keep talking about being in alignment with your values. You know, one of the things that I've noticed personally like with my values and things is that when I was stuck in betrayal trauma, or anytime I should say whenever I am stuck in betrayal trauma, because it's not something that necessarily just ever goes away, right? But being aware of what my goals, my values, and my wants and the direction I want to take my life, and holding firm to that has always been almost just kind of like that anchor in the tornado, you know? And so like being in alignment with your values, if it's something like if you don't understand, my listeners, like what she's talking about here, what I'm going to offer you, and she might even talk a little bit about this too, but one of the things I'm going to offer you here is to sit back, take some time, be intentional, and really think about what it is you want.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, that's the first step, actually.
Yeah.
In manifesting and creating.
Yes.
You know, this episode is about, you know, creating and getting in alignment with creating.
Yeah.
And that's the first step. You've got to decide what you want.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is right now, like, you know, depending on where you're at in your healing journey, there's probably something coming into your life right now that you're like, I really don't want this. I really don't want this. So I know for me, I was so focused on what I didn't want that's what I was creating more of. And, you know, and my energy was so depressed and so exhausted, and I didn't feel like I could get up sometimes in the morning and actually like take care of my kids and change a diaper. All I could do is just lay in the bed. I mean, it was a severe depression, and it caused me more depression, more pain, more of what it was I didn't want. And I blamed it all on my husband's addiction and the way that his addiction was affecting me. So, you know, yeah, getting intentional, figuring out what it is you actually do want was like it was almost like kind of like a breath of fresh air for me. You know what I mean? Like awesome. I was finally able to come up for oxygen.
Awesome. Yeah, I will say there were a few things that you said. I believe it was something around, it's kind of always there. You said the betrayal trauma, it's kind of always there. And like that's a thought that you have, right?
Yes.
You know, so Erin just showed us
stories.
Like, that's a thought that she has. It's a story. And I like, you know, if we were in a coaching session right now, I would have stopped you right then and there. And I was like, if you guys happen to be watching this versus listening to this, you would have seen my body like in my mouth want to like move, and I had to make myself shut up because I'm like, we're recording a podcast episode, we're not in a coaching session. You know,
well,
but
I'm curious. Like, I'm curious. I do want to ask you here, because I do feel like there are things, no matter what happens in our life, that trauma can still come up, right?
Trauma's a perspective.
Yeah.
Trauma's a perspective. You know, bad things that not good, things that are quote unquote bad or difficult or challenging, or we don't like. For example, there's some couples who are perfectly fine with each other watching pornography. Totally fine. There are people who are totally okay, like with open marriages. It's not traumatic to them. It's enjoyable. Now, that's not to me, and it's not to you, and it's probably not to most of your audience, right? So, and I just use that as an example to say, like, often what we say is traumatic. The thing itself can be separated as a fact. It's how we view the thing that actually creates the suffering. And it's not that we shouldn't view something as being bad. Like if that's our value system we're talking about here, right? And so being loyal to one another is really important. It's really important to me. I'm sure it's really important to you and your audience, right? So there are things which we say, like, that's traumatic. Actually, no, that's an event. And now we get to play around with how we view the thing and also what we do with that moving forward. And that might sound like, yeah, but that thing is bad, Kushla. You just said it. This is in opposition to my values and blah, 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 all the rest of it, right? But the reason it's important to know that is because then we can actually pause and take time to look at it from an observer point of view rather than being stuck in it, feeling like a victim.
Yeah.
Feeling like at the effect of it. And, there are a bunch of mistakes that people can make when it comes to goal creating, hitting goals. I don't say goal setting, I say goal getting. There's a bunch of mistakes, a bunch of manifesting mistakes. Can I go over them really quickly with your audience?
Yes, please.
Yeah, cool. And then I'll tell you guys the steps to manifesting. And if they want to know more, actually, I'm doing a podcast episode on this soon, so they can check in. Maybe in a couple of weeks. Yeah. I'm just starting my podcast, and so we're doing one particularly on manifesting. But anyway, here's 6 manifesting mistakes that people often make, and I'm sure some of these will really resonate with your audience. And I'll say they've resonated with me. They resonate with all of us at some time or another. The thing isn't to ever feel crappy about them. It's just to recognize them and then, get back up again. So number 1 is playing the blame game. You spoke about that just a few moments ago.
Yeah. Yep. And if I can just pause you for a second, guys, let me tell you why blame is so bad. Okay. Number 1, it's almost like cutting your legs off. It actually stops your ability to do. And even if you're self-blaming, it stops your ability to do. However, when you take ownership. So my husband could be looking at pornography. Yes, I don't want that. Yes, that's not something I appreciate. But I think, like, for me, I ask myself, okay, what am I going to do about it? But when I'm in blame, I think to myself, I can't do anything about that, right? And so when she's talking about playing the blame game here, I want you guys to really check in and get intentional here again and say, where am I saying I can't do anything about this? So how do you feel about boundaries? It's a legitimate question. A lot of people come to me really struggling with this concept. They often feel guilty for setting boundaries, or they're not sure about even what a boundary is. They've heard the term, set the boundary, things like that, but that's really confusing for them because it's not something that's well taught in our society nowadays, right? They know that boundaries are really important to having healthy, constructive, supportive, and wonderful relationships, but why? And oftentimes they also know that they feel like their boundaries are being violated, but they can't quite pinpoint what the boundary is that's being violated. That's why I've created the Clarifying and Creating Your Boundaries free PDF. You can find out what your boundaries are, how to tune in to what the boundary needs to be, and how to effectively create and communicate your boundary so that way you stay in this place that respects you, respects the other person, but also gives you the confidence in your boundaries so that way you stop being gaslighted, disrespected, and unseen. Having your boundaries really clear gives you a voice and also helps the other person stay in accountability with themselves. So that's not a role that you have to take on anymore. So if you are ready to really have clear boundaries,
to really understand what your role is in the boundary and to give yourself some safety and some protection against people that might try to gaslight you or are just being disrespectful. Go grab my Creating and Clarifying Your Boundary PDF at erinandersonthetraumacoach.com. And while you're there, let's schedule a call with me. Come have a chat with me so that way I can really, really help you master this particular skill, creating boundaries, clarifying the boundary, communicating that boundary, and so that way I can also help you have relationships that show up to support you, cherish you, and love you.
Yeah, it's really getting your power back when you stop blaming others. To give another example, as a coach, I had been coaching maybe just a year or two. No, maybe I think it was about a year. And I'd had some big income months, but then I wouldn't make money for a long time. And actually, my husband and I were going through a rough patch. We've been married 25 years. And this is like a number of years ago. And I, at the time, was just feeling all this anger and resentment towards him. And I was feeling a lot of blame towards him.
I can connect that to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I was feeling a lot of resentment and anger. And I ended up actually in the garage in our house, in the car, bad mouthing him to his mum. And I talk about this in an upcoming episode. Or in like the first episode actually of my podcast. And I was on look at this shows my age, right? This is not how phones are held anymore.
Age.
It's like this, isn't it? Anyway, so I was on the phone to my mother-in-law in the car, bad mouthing her son, and she listened patiently and empathetically. And I hadn't done it before and I haven't done it since, but I was really in this energy of blame. And I come out of that conversation witnessing that I had just been doing that. And so I asked myself the question, like, do I just want to quit? Because this had to do with money and things like that. Like, do I just want to quit my business? And that was the first time I allowed myself to ask myself that question. And I realized, or I could just stop blaming him for starters and just go and do the thing that I said I was going to do and become create my first 6-figure year. I could just be a 6-figure coach. And I was like, yeah, that's just what I'm going to do. So yeah, that mistake, once I was able to witness that I was in that state of blame and make a decision to get out of it, I was able to do something very powerful. And then in 10.5 months, I'd created, my first 100K year, which was awesome. So anyway, that's the first mistake. And that's just a little example to share with you guys, how you can create big shifts, playing the blame game. The second thing is being wishy-washy. Like, if you can imagine sitting in a restaurant and a waiter comes up to you and asks you, hey, what would you like to order? You're like, I think I want some garlic bread, or maybe I would like a banana sundae. Yeah, I'll have a banana sundae. No, actually, let me just get a banoffee instead. And they banoffee, okay, and they go to get it. And then you call them, no, hang on. Actually, I think I want, a lamb rack of ribs. And you're like just all over the place. And that's often what we do when it comes to what it is that we want and our desires.
That what are you talking about? Yeah. I've never ever been guilty of that.
Yeah, so being wishy-washy. When we
maybe I have, maybe I haven't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, I'm teasing you.
That's okay. Yeah, so when we think of the quantum field, which again, I know I'm not, like, for those of you who don't even know what the quantum field is, you can bring me on again. But basically, the quantum field is in and through everything. And when we decide to set a goal, or we decide to do something or be something or experience something, we've got to be very, very clear, and basically clear with our thoughts and intentions out. And then there's a way to magnetically attract it back in, which I will talk about soon. Okay, so I'm going to be clear. Okay, so the third thing is not asking at all. That often comes when we feel blocked in some of those heavy emotions. We just don't ask at all. It can definitely come from a place of not feeling like we deserve it. It can feel like a place of I've tried everything and we just want to quit. It can come from a place of just feeling so heavy in the energy, like our thoughts are constantly reviewing the past and the hurt that we've gone through, and so we just don't feel like energetically we've got the capacity to ask, and we've always got the capacity to ask. It just takes one little moment of making that decision.
Well, and one thing I want to say here too to my listeners, Kay, when we're talking about the capacity to ask, that's actually a big piece in like my Unashamed Image. We talk a lot about asking for the things that we
Beautiful.
want, and like, you know, like asking for the how do we knows, you know, ask for the truth. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. That person that you're asking the truth from might be terrified of the truth. But you can also ask yourself, like, what do you feel? You know, like, and I hear this so much, like with the gaslighting and like, he's gaslighting me, he's gaslighting me, he's gaslighting me. Yeah, that's probably the truth. You know, there's a good chance that he is telling you a lie. But what do you think? Like, what do you really feel? And if the truth is, I don't trust you, I don't believe you, it's also safe to say that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And
yeah.
You want to, if that's what the truth is, it's okay, like you say, to say that, to express that. And quite often, manifesting what it is that we want, the road is bumpy on the way there, and where some people really aren't willing at the moment because of their personality, their previous thoughts, feelings, and actions. They're feeling unwilling to get in and do those things and have those difficult conversations, and they sit in the fear of like, what would happen if I do talk about this? Really, just take our mind. One of the secrets of manifesting is like not to be stuck in the past. And sometimes I believe we review the past way too often.
Oh yeah.
You know, manifesting is a future-oriented art. It's not a past-oriented art. At times, it requires you to take stock from the past, make some adjustments, and then it's about bringing your eye back to the future, what it is you want to create. Okay.
So let me, if it's okay again, I just want to go ahead and interrupt you guys again for my audience. Think about it like this, like what she's saying. I'm a moviegoer. I love movies. I love seeing, you know, the fun, quirky stuff. If it's Jane Austen, I am there. You know, like like that kind of stuff. But if I'm watching the same movie over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, it gets tiring. It gets sick. Like I'm like, oh, I need something new. And so that's why we get so excited about the next best thing. So I want you guys to consider that for just a second and really listen to what she's saying here. If you've got your past on a constant playback in your head, well, this is where you get to show it a whole new movie. And that's exciting. That's fun. This is what we get to create now. And so I want you guys to consider it kind of like that, like you're creating a whole new movie.
Absolutely. That's awesome. The fourth one is wanting instead of deciding. I actually have a class on this in my Confident Coach Academy because it's so powerful. It's life-changing. Like wanting really is going to keep you in this space of lacking, because when you want something, it means you don't have it. And the energy is off for creation. If you really want to create something, it's got to come from this powerful place of deciding. And you would be amazed at the amount of ties to trauma that get cut when you make a pure decision.
Yes.
And a pure decision can be made in a microsecond. Like the example that I gave when I come out of the garage after bad mouthing my husband and blaming him. And then I reflected for a moment, and instead I decided that I'm a six-figure coach. It was a decision. I can still remember the feeling, and I've done that many times in my life. And when you make a pure decision that's really about creating something new, something you haven't experienced yet, then like there's this light that comes through you when you make these
Yeah.
decisions.
Well,
So
it's kind of like taking the bull back by the horns, and that was actually what she's saying here. Again,
getting
it's also,
a new bull,
yeah,
bull.
getting a new
Sorry, my
bull, right?
accent.
New life.
Yeah, new bull by the horns.
That's okay. Like, you guys will know that I've talked with Kushla for a long time. Once I start talking in either not a British or Australian accent, like, it happens all the time.
Yes.
But, like, let me say this again to my listeners. When I made the decision to divorce my husband's addiction, it wasn't divorce my husband. It was to divorce his addiction. And that was like a solid decision. And I think for me, sometimes that decision still needs to be made once in a while because Ruben still, isn't completely healed from this yet. And like, I'm actually okay with that. I'm not really too terribly worried about that as long as he's, working on himself and he's doing the things that he is doing, which he is. But that meant I was no longer going to make it about me. But I also know, like, with my audience, making decisions sometimes is terrifying because, we've been stuck in trauma for so long. We don't know if we can trust ourselves. What if it's the wrong decision? What if, what if, what if, what if? And we've got all of these what ifs. May I suggest to you, if this is something you are dealing with right now, may I suggest just make the decision and adjust as you come back and find things. Because the thing is once you start to make a decision, you're actually starting to get yourself in a forward momentum. That doesn't mean you can't turn left. That doesn't mean you can't turn right. That doesn't mean you have to completely go straight in your decision making. There will be other pieces that come into this decision. But just making it will ask you the next question, which is, okay, so now if I'm going to divorce my husband's addiction, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
How do I act when the addiction comes up in my face again? How do I act when it feels like I'm being betrayed? Can I be
Well,
honest
you
with
are
myself,
literally being
right?
betrayed. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you are. You are. Absolutely. You totally are. But it's like the difference. You guys have heard me talk about like the day that I picked up a metal chair and chucked it at Ruben's head. I don't know if I've told you that one, Kushla, but I
I
did.
think so. You've gone through many stories,
Yeah.
so I'm sure it's in there in the vault somewhere.
Somewhere it's in there. But to me saying, wow, you must have had a really tough week. Tell me what's going on, And instead of being like ready to kill my husband, to this is all yours. You get to keep it. But if you want to talk to me about it so you can get some clarity and you can find some peace and you can find out what your next steps are, I'm all ears.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
I think it's really important for us to recognize when I'm talking about manifesting, it's about you and what you decide to do, what your desires are. And of course, if you're in a married relationship or in a relationship with a partner, ideally we want to co-create some things. I definitely believe that we should be creating some things individually, and then there are some things we want to get into the synchronicity with and co-create with our spouse or partner. Now, for some of you, that's going to feel like it's not even plausible, and you have to go off on your own and just completely focus on creating the things you want in your life, regardless of, or in, maybe in spite of the things that your spouse, your husband's doing. And that is okay. Okay. If the people who you want to co-create with aren't ready to do that with you because they're in a space of healing themselves, fine. You just go off and create what it is you want. What happens is when we align our energies and get them in a certain frequency, people either naturally lift their own frequency closer to ours, or they just kind of stay out of our energy bubble. And that's cool. You might say, but I don't want to feel disconnected from my husband, or I don't want to like push him away. Well, actually, the truth is you do, if what he is doing is really out of alignment with you in your life. If he's like doing some really heavy stuff that just you don't like and you want to keep him in your life as your husband or spouse, Well, actually, you don't want to have him in your energy bubble very much, to be quite honest. If you do, you do that knowing that it's going to keep your energy low, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to make some decisions, right? And get out of the space of wanting and instead decide. I'll quickly go through the last two. Number 5 is trying to figure out every step of the how before you actually take action. So again, going back to that decision I made when I come out of the garage to hit 6 figures, I didn't know exactly every step of what I was going to do. Yes, I had some experience making some high income months, but I hadn't created a 6-figure year before. But what I did ask myself was questions like, how does a 6-figure coach think? How do they feel? What do they do habitually every day? Like, what are the kind of things that they prioritize? And I will tell you, I gave myself to the rest of the day to like just chillax. And then I was like, well, tomorrow I'm waking up as a 6-figure coach. And I wrote down kind of the behaviors that I felt a 6-figure coach had. And I just started actioning those every day. And as I did, the steps started to reveal themselves. Obviously, you want to have like one, like, and if, by the way, you don't know a strategy, if you don't know the steps, you learn that strategy, but the decision comes first. You don't have to know all the hows. You don't have to figure out everything beforehand. You don't have to go do a training before you say, I'm creating whatever it is you want to create. Okay.
Yep.
You make the decision, and then the things like the trainings, the coach, the synchronicities, the resources, they start being drawn to you. But that won't happen if you sit there trying to figure out every step of the way, because the reality is you haven't done this before. So you actually don't know every step of the way. And when you try to figure out every step of the way, you really are, talking about trying to create everything yourself. I just say, let God into the process, let him inspire you,
Yes.
and also because God's created a perfectly ordered universe, let the universe step in and help you as well.
Yep.
Like, let it send the little,
Yes.
the things to you, the inspirations, all the stuff. Okay. So don't try and figure out everything beforehand, because quite frankly, you're not going to be that great at it. Okay. So, all right. And then
This
the
is
sixth
something
one,
I struggle with. But continue, yes.
and then the 6th one is being attached to the outcome. So you're like, I've stopped doing this. I've put in this effort here. I'm doing that. It can be really tempting to be overly attached to the outcome. Really, really tempting to like, I'm a big fan of tracking. Erin will tell you, I talk about tracking with her. Got to watch your results, because what you focus on expands. It's really cool to know what's happening. And particularly if you can become aware of where there's improvements, you're like, awesome. It's just going to help you and motivate you more. But also, and I'm going a bit backwards and forwards here, but also it's really important that we aren't attached to it. Like, we're not feeling needy. We're not feeling like we have to have this. Even if you do, even if you have this need, even if you do have to have this, the energy of needing will repel it from you.
Yes.
Right? So it's really important not to be attached to it. Be in this energy of like focusing on it. But honestly, when you are actually manifesting, when you're in the energy of manifesting, you're already feeling the joy and the experience and the energy of having it anyway. And so you don't naturally have this neediness. Okay.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And let me tell you, the thing that's really cool, and just to kind of wrap up here, it comes down to desires. Kyson and I were actually talking about this, and bless his ever-loving heart, he called me out on some of the, like, my language, the needy language, and I was like, oh, crap, And I'm so grateful he did. I'm so grateful he did, because it's brought a lot of really good thoughts into my mind. Like, oh my gosh, like, what is it that I'm really desiring? What is it that I really want? Because it's a whole different ball game when you say, what is it I want versus what is it do I need?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And we've been taught our whole lives that you have to have all of these needs met and then a few wants. But what if it was all wants?
Yeah. I mean, I want the things that I need, And also I just want the things that I want,
Yeah.
and I don't stay in the feeling of want though, right?
Yeah.
So is it okay with you if I wrap up by just quickly telling your tribe what are the steps to manifesting? And then if they
Yes.
want to know more, then they can reach out
And we can maybe
all
even
the rest.
schedule
Yeah.
another podcast too. So
Yeah,
that totally
absolutely.
works.
Absolutely. So I've told you the 6 manifesting mistakes. Here are the things to pay attention to if you want to manifest a particular goal, if you want to create something, whether it's better relationship, health, etc. Okay. Number 1, decide what you want. So you get clear on what you want. You need clarity. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to make a good decision. Okay. The number 2 is embody it. So here's where we move from wanting to desire. We embody the version of you that already has the thing that you decided to create, right? So you think about how will you think, how do you feel, and how do you do things?
That's your ideal self. That's one of the things we talk about.
And part of your personality will already have some of those attributes, and some parts, might only be a tiny part, will need a bit of an upgrade. Okay. In thoughts, remembering you, if you're embodying it, it's about what new thoughts, what new feelings, and what new actions. Okay. It's that Erin talks about creating with your hands, basically is a symbol of your whole body.
Yes.
So what are the actions? Okay.
Yep.
So embody it. That's the second part. The third part is to take inspired action. And this helps with those of you who might get stuck in trying to figure out every step of the how before taking action. Like, forget it, just take inspired action based on step number 2. Okay. So what are the flashes of thoughts that come to your mind first? Take action on that, and then the next step will be revealed. And of course, if you do have strategies that you know and you've got a plan, take action on those, but don't forget the inspired action as well, okay? Because you will get inspired action. The fourth thing is surrender. So when you're operating from the person who has the results already, there's no need to worry, doubt, or fear. You know, if you're starting to worry, doubt, or fear, you're not being in the energy of the person who has results. So go back up and think about, how do I embody this as a person who already has the results? How am I thinking and feeling and doing things as the person who already has the relationship I want, already has the health that I want? You might need to think about installing some more thoughts, or thinking about the feelings more. And it's great to make it a habit from the moment you wake up, not the entire day. It's not going to be feasible, but more and more and more installing and thinking and getting into that place of feeling. And then you'll experience much less of the worry, doubt, or fear, and sit in that place of surrender. Okay. Just relax. Okay. And then the next one is to be present. So if you're feeling worry, doubt, or fear, again, you're focusing on what you don't want. You want to get present. That's another way to make sure that you're sitting in a higher energy, is to be present. And there's all sorts of things you can do to get present, but I won't go into those today. But be present on the now. Don't try and revisit the past. And sometimes don't even spend time thinking of the future, though you do want to spend sometimes in the future and manifesting, creating in your mind. But you can only create in the now, right? You can only do something to change tomorrow, today. And to do that intentionally, you must be present. Okay. So those are, I think there's 5 things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. 5 things to help you get
I'm
clear
gonna
on
add
manifesting.
a 6th one. Take
Go
ownership.
for it.
Take ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is when you might be intentional, you might be moving forward, you might have all of these things happening, but sometimes as you're becoming this new person, this person with confidence, this person with joy, this person that makes good, clear decisions, you might find at some point, wow, I've been blaming and I shouldn't have been doing that. Wow, and feeling like this is out of alignment with who I am when you're present. And so when you can say, that is not who I want to be. This is who I have promised myself I would be. So I'm going to make an apology to myself. Hey, I'm sorry I fell back into that energy.
I love you, I forgive you, you know, that whole Hapona Ono, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also figure out, like, sometimes one of the hardest things I had to do was apologize to my husband. You know, when I felt like it was all him and it was all his problem and everything like that. When I did these steps that Kushla was talking about, there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, like that was very demasculinating.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I will
apologize for that.
clarify something. I will clarify something. So when you talk about, you know, the step of taking ownership, that's all part of deciding what you want. You actually can't make a really clear decision until you take ownership. And so that's a part of that process. But absolutely take ownership. Like I said, playing the blame game, that's not going to help you to manifest. If you want to create something different from what you're currently experiencing, then, you know, you've got to make some clear decisions, which means letting go of blame. Of course, if you're completely happy with your life as it is now, awesome, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But, but if you want to create something new, then these steps will definitely help you.
Yes, and I love it. I'm actually going to go back through and re-listen to those again.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I need to. I need to do this.
I do.
As well
I'm like going to go like take notes and everything again, especially while I'm like editing this podcast. Like it's going to be fantastic. So anyway, my listeners, I just love Kushla. I hope you guys can totally understand why she gets straight to the point. She cuts through the crap. And, you know, sometimes we really need to do those kinds of things for ourselves if we're going to say, hey, I'm somebody that's healed from trauma, betrayal trauma. This is not something that plagues me anymore. And so cutting through that crap, this is one of the reasons I love having her on the show, is because she knows exactly which ribbons to cut and what to put in its place. So thank you, Kushla, so much for being back on. My listeners, my loves, take some notes on this. Go back, re-listen, and take some notes on those manifesting steps, because this is real good, solid golden stuff. So anyway, we'll have Kushla back, you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on here.
For being here. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so I've got a question for you. Have you joined my free Facebook group or Instagram page yet? If you haven't, go and do that. And this is the reason why. I always post my freebies, updated information, and all kinds of goodies for my community in that page. I'm also really active. I post videos. I answer questions. So if you guys really, really want to get in and interact with me, go like me on Facebook, go join my group, The Other Side of the Struggle, Healing from Betrayal Trauma. Come find me on Instagram, Erin Anderson, Betrayal Trauma Coach, and come follow me, because I always have something good there just for you, my audience, and I love connecting with you there. I also post anytime that I have groups going on. I talk sometimes about my programs. So if you guys are interested in working with me, or even just following me and getting as much free content as you possibly can, go hang out in my group. Go connect with the ladies that are there. Also come and join Immune and Unashamed for those married couples that are following me, because in that group, me and my business partner, Kaisen Kidd, are also talking and offering some great content in there. So go join up. I hope to see you on the other side of the struggle. Hey guys, thanks so much for hanging out with me today and listening in on this podcasting episode. Don't forget to tune in next week. It's gonna be